Imagine walking down a bustling city street on like a random Tuesday afternoon.
Okay.
You are miles away from any river, no lakes, no oceans. The pavement is completely dry.
Right.
And suddenly you spot someone who is just sweating, straining, staggering down the sidewalk with a massive, heavy wooden canoe balanced on their shoulders.
Yeah, that would be a sight.
Right. You'd probably stop and think, why on earth are they carrying that here? I mean, it belongs in the water.
Yeah, exactly. Out on the pavement, it just looks, well, it looks absurd.
Completely absurd. But if you are a community leader, you might actually be carrying a heavy, awkward canoe of your own through, the dry hallways of your organization.
Oh, that's a really good point. Or even like the living room of your home, right?
Yeah.
And without even realizing it.
Exactly. I mean, you wouldn't carry a canoe down a dry city street, yet as a leader, you might be carrying these outdated survival tactics.
Which is such a striking image. It really captures the hidden psychological and structural burdens so many leaders carry, long after those burdens have stopped being useful.
Yeah, and that is exactly what we are getting into today. Today is Thursday, May 7, 2026, and welcome to today's deep dive.
We've got a great one today.
We really do. We are diving into this deeply insightful teaching titled Canoes on the Crowd by spirit drummer Father Bayo Adrian. And this deep dive is tailored specifically for you, the community leader.
Right, because this is all about practical application.
Exactly. Our mission today is to explore Father Adrian's concept of divine balance and map out exactly how you can apply it to modern leadership.
It's a fascinating framework.
It really is. We are going to follow the organic progression of the text, actually. First revealing the hidden beliefs we carry, then realigning our systems toward balance, and finally exploring ways to restore shared governance.
So reveal, realign, and restore.
You got it. So let's unpack this canoe metaphor because Father Adrian sets up this brilliant scenario to explain it.
Yeah, he asks us to imagine a traveler who is trapped on a small island during like a violent nighttime storm.
Sounds terrifying.
I mean, the wind is howling, the water is treacherous, the threat to this person's life is absolute. And in that terrifying moment of crisis, a canoe is nothing short of a mercy.
Right, it's literally a vehicle of salvation.
Exactly. It carries the traveler across these dangerous waters. But eventually, the sun rises, the storm passes, and the traveler's canoe hits dry land.
Because the canoe did exactly what it was supposed to do. I mean, it completed its assignment.
Precisely. But the problem arises when the traveler steps onto the dry ground and then they hoist that heavy waterlogged canoe onto their shoulders.
And they just keep walking inland.
Right. What was once this life-saving mercy has suddenly become an unnecessary crushing weight.
Oh man, I see this happen all the time in the business world, especially with founders.
Oh, totally.
Think about a startup company in its first 6 months. To survive, the founders have to rely on intense survival tactics.
The hustle culture.
Exactly. Extreme micromanagement, working 80-hour weeks. In the storm of early-stage funding, those habits are their canoe.
Yeah, that hustle keeps the company from drowning.
Right. But fast forward 5 years, they have 100 employees, they have a stable revenue stream, and they are officially standing on dry land.
So they don't need the canoe.
Right. But if that leader keeps carrying the canoe of micromanagement and 80-hour weeks into the mature corporate phase, they will literally destroy their employees' morale.
And stunt the company's growth entirely. That is a perfect modern parallel.
Thanks.
And Father Adrian applies this metaphor directly to, our belief systems, our traditions, and our religious structures.
How so?
Well, he argues that belief is a vehicle meant to deliver us to a destination of transformed living. It is a tool for crossing the water. It is not a trophy for carrying on land.
Okay, that makes sense. You don't park your car inside your office once you arrive at work.
Exactly. Or, as the text points out, you use a ladder to climb onto a roof, but you don't strap the ladder to your back once you get up there.
That's a great way to put it. But here is the friction point. People build their entire identities, their communities, their sense of safety around their beliefs.
Oh, absolutely. It's their foundation.
Right. So if a belief saved you during a storm, letting go of it on dry land feels like a betrayal. So how does a leader actually know they've reached dry land? I mean, when is it time to put the boat down?
So according to the framework in the source, you've reached dry land when a belief matures into what the author calls embodied knowledge and lived wisdom.
Lived wisdom.
Yeah, belief is merely what we profess.
Right.
But wisdom is what our actions prove we actually hold.
Oh, I like that distinction.
And Father Adrian warns that when a belief never matures into lived truth, it decays into something he calls blind certainty. And he compares blind certainty to a foghorn on a ship.
Okay, well, a foghorn is great for making a lot of noise, warning people to stay away from your territory.
Right, but a foghorn is a terrible tool for actually navigating the ship or finding a destination.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The text argues that historically, when believers operate out of blind certainty rather than lived wisdom, they divide, conquer, and destroy one another, often in the name of God.
Which is a heavy truth.
It is. When a belief system continually divides a community rather than healing it, that is the absolute clearest sign you are carrying a canoe on dry land.
So if blind certainty is the foghorn, what does lived wisdom actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon in an office?
Yeah, he doesn't just leave this as some philosophical ideal, which is great.
Yeah, we need the practical stuff.
He outlines 4 specific daily habits that signal a leader is transitioning away from blind certainty and toward lived wisdom.
Okay, let's hear them.
The first one is offering apologies quickly.
Oh, wow. Which is incredibly difficult for leaders who tie their authority to being infallible.
Exactly. It requires a lot of vulnerability. The second habit is sharing power willingly.
Also tough for a lot of people.
And the third is listening without interrupting.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this one for a second. Because, we all know a leader who struggles here. But practically speaking, what if I'm running a tight community board meeting?
Right.
And someone just goes completely off topic for 10 minutes and derails the entire agenda?
I have to interrupt, right? Is the author suggesting a wise leader just lets the clock run out?
No, that is a crucial distinction to make. The text isn't advocating for a lack of boundaries or passive leadership.
Okay, good.
Listening without interrupting is more about the internal mechanism of your attention. When someone else is speaking, are you genuinely absorbing their perspective to understand the root of their concern?
Or am I just waiting for them to stop so I can talk?
Exactly. Are you just using the time their mouth is moving to reload your own argument?
Oh, guilty. I think we all do that sometimes.
Right. But interrupting to guide a meeting back to a shared agenda, that is facilitation.
Oh,
interrupting because you believe your voice is inherently more valuable than the speaker's, that is blind certainty.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It is really about the intent behind the silence. Yes. And the fourth habit he lists is demonstrating generosity that does not announce itself.
Doing the right thing for the community without calling the PR team to document it.
Exactly. As the text summarizes so sharply, wisdom is what you do when no one is clapping.
I love that. Wisdom is what you do when no one is clapping.
And the beautiful thing about these 4 habits, apologizing, sharing power, deep listening, and quiet generosity, is that when a leader practices them, they naturally dismantle hierarchy.
They bend the organization toward balance.
Precisely.
Which brings us to a really fascinating and perhaps challenging transition in the text. Part 2, realign.
Right.
Because if we set down the old canoe of ego and blind certainty, what actually takes its place?
Well, this is where Father Adrian introduces the concepts of divine balance and divine union.
He frames this as the ultimate goal of mature leadership. But I have to say, he uses some pretty intense terminology here.
He does.
He talks about particle and wave, positive and negative. What does quantum physics have to do with running a community center?
It sounds abstract, I know. But the author is establishing a foundational premise here. He's saying balance is not a suggestion or like a corporate buzzword.
Okay.
He argues it is a law of life. In physics, to understand light, you have to measure it as both a particle, which is a discrete focus point, and a wave, which is a spreading relational field.
You need both distinct behaviors to describe the reality of light.
Exactly. And Father Adrian maps this onto human relationships and leadership. He argues that true flourishing requires complementary opposites working together.
Like what?
Like female and male,
Yeah.
structure and flow, action and reflection.
And he makes a massive provocative claim here. He argues that historically, systems dominated entirely by one perspective, specifically male-dominated, sentiment-driven systems, have fundamentally failed us.
Yes, he does.
And just to be clear for you listening, we are simply reporting the author's critique of history here. We're not taking sides. But he states that when belief systems normalize structural imbalance, the community really suffers.
Because leadership drifts into becoming fear-focused, sin-obsessed, and highly suspicious of outsiders.
Which is a heavy critique.
It is, but the mechanism he describes is fascinating. When an institution lacks the wave of expansive, inclusive compassion and relies entirely on the particle of rigid hierarchical control, it becomes brittle.
It snaps.
Exactly. Where faith becomes fear and tradition becomes domination, the system breaks. That is why the author insists on a shift toward what he calls co-facilitation.
Okay, let's define co-facilitation because I think this is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, let's do it.
I want to play devil's advocate again, because if a community leader hears shared stewardship and interdependence, they might start sweating.
Oh, for sure.
Let's say we have a male and female co-facilitator leading an organization. They are sharing power equally, but it's Tuesday morning, funding has just been slashed by 20%, and they fundamentally disagree on which programs to cut.
A classic scenario.
Right. Doesn't striving for perfect balance just create an absolute stalemate? I mean, how does this concept of two unique leaders sharing power actually function without gridlock?
Well, it is the most common fear leaders have about shared power. But the text addresses this through the concept of two become one.
Okay.
And it connects this to cultural philosophies like Ubuntu, which means I am because we are, and Namaste, which is honoring the divine in the other.
So it's not just a corporate strategy.
No, it's deeper. Co-facilitation is not about two pilots fighting over one steering wheel. It is not splitting every task 50-50.
Okay, so what is it like?
It's more like a pilot and a navigator.
Oh, I see. They have completely different roles, but they share the exact same destination.
Precisely. The author uses the concept of yin and yang. It's a complementary exchange.
That makes a lot of sense.
So when a budget crisis hits, a male-dominated, unbalanced system might default to purely administrative logic, right? Like cut the bottom 20% of performers, protect the core assets.
Just the cold, hard math.
Right. But co-facilitation forces a synthesis. It requires the leaders to combine that administrative logic with what the text calls motherly compassion.
The wave and the particle again.
Exactly. The resulting decision might be harder to reach, but it will be vastly more sustainable for the community because it accounts for both the math and the human reality.
The goal isn't just to make a fast decision.
No. The goal is to produce life and what Father Adrian calls divine relief.
Divine relief. Wow, that reframes it entirely. It is a sacred mutuality. It's recognizing that biological features or traditional roles don't dictate superiority.
They call us into a required interdependence.
Beautifully put. So let's move to part 3, restore. If a listener is tracking with this and they want to dismantle the outdated, imbalanced systems in their own organization, how do they actually do it?
Well, the author provides a really clear 4-step framework. Inventory, repair, rebuild, and repeat.
Honestly, that sounds a bit like a generic corporate seminar checklist.
It does sound simple, yeah.
So what does this actually look like when applied to dismantling entrenched power dynamics?
Well, the words are simple, but the application is rigorous. Let's break down the mechanism of each step.
Okay.
Step 1 is inventory. This isn't just looking at a spreadsheet of employee demographics.
Right.
It requires ruthlessly naming where imbalance lives in your assumptions. Who automatically takes the notes in your meetings?
That's a good one.
Who is expected to clean up after the community potluck? When a female colleague speaks, is her tone policed more heavily than a male colleague's?
You have to inventory the invisible water you were swimming in.
Exactly. You cannot fix a dynamic you refuse to acknowledge.
Which leads to step 2, repair. And according to the text, this has to be structural, not just emotional.
Yes. Apologizing is necessary, but it is insufficient on its own.
You need action.
Repair means changing actual policies.
Yeah.
If an organization's bylaws grant one person unilateral veto power over community funds, those bylaws have to be rewritten to mandate shared decision-making.
You must actively share the levers of power. Then we have step 3, rebuild. This is about future-proofing the balance.
Which is so important.
Right, it means teaching the next generation, both sons and daughters, that they possess the same dignity. It means publicly modeling mutual honor so the youth have a blueprint to follow.
And finally, step 4, repeat.
Repeat. Why? Because transformation is a continuous practice.
Right.
You don't just rewrite a policy once, check a box, and declare your community perfectly balanced forever.
No, because human nature naturally drifts back toward the path of least resistance.
Which is usually hierarchy and control.
Exactly. Repeating the cycle of inventory and repair is how you maintain the balance over time.
To give this even more traction, the text highlights 3 highly specific ways leaders can practice mutual decision-making in the public sphere.
Yes, the practical application.
We've touched on the first one, actively changing institutional policies to reflect shared governance. What is the second?
The second is visibly sharing the decision-making process with female partners to model mutual honor.
Oh, visibly.
Yes, the key word is visibly. It does not count if the co-facilitation only happens behind closed doors. The community needs to see leaders co-signing documents, co-leading town halls, and deferring to one another in public. The medium is the message.
That is powerful. And the third way is actively honoring what Father Adrian calls motherly compassion in every public institution.
Yes. He refers to this compassion as the glue that binds a community together.
We talked about this with the budget cut example earlier. An institution cannot just be run like a machine using traditional administrative logic.
It just doesn't work long term.
Right. If a tenant is late on rent, administrative logic says evict. But motherly compassion asks, why are they late and how do we stabilize their family so they can thrive?
A balanced community requires both lenses.
It really does. And this brings us to a very specific, pointed call to action that Father Adrian makes toward male leaders in particular.
Yes, this is a crucial part of the text.
He argues that men must take the lead in this self-inventory of history, because historically, men have held the lion's share of structural power.
He uses a very stark phrase here. He challenges male leaders to end the war against Eve.
The war against Eve? It is a profound challenge.
It is. Ending the war against Eve, who is, the mother of all living, means rejecting any religious culture or tradition that has historically excused or protected male-dominant systems.
Wow.
The text calls on male leaders to receive their female partners in the absolute fullness of their divine worth.
It asks them to step down from the pedestal of assumed authority.
And step into the messy, beautiful reality of shared governance.
Man, that is a paradigm shift. And to help you, the listener, actually internalize this shift, Father Adrian includes several intense reflection prompts.
I love these questions.
Me too. I want to pose these to you directly right now. As you listen, don't rush to defend yourself, and don't rush to point the finger at your boss or your partner.
Just sit with it.
Exactly. Just pause and consider the mechanics of your own life. First, are you emotionally prepared to question your own deeply held beliefs about gender relationships and power?
It's a tough question. And second, did the religious culture or tradition you were raised in shape, excuse, or protect male-dominant systems around you?
And perhaps the most clarifying question of all, are you tired of carrying the canoe around town?
That is the ultimate diagnostic.
It really is.
Because letting go of a belief system that saved you in the past is terrifying. It feels vulnerable to walk on dry land without your armor.
Oh, 100%.
But the sheer relief of setting down a burden you were never meant to carry forever is immense. It frees up your hands to actually build something new.
That is so true. Well, let's pull all of these threads together.
Let's do it.
We started by looking at the canoe, those outdated survival tactics, hustle cultures, and rigid beliefs that become unnecessary weights once we reach dry land.
And we explored how to transition away from the foghorn of blind certainty.
Right. Adopting the daily habits of lived wisdom. Quick apologies, shared power, deep listening, and quiet generosity.
From there, we examined the mechanics of divine balance. We explored how co-facilitation isn't about creating gridlock, but about combining the particle and the wave.
The administrative logic and the motherly compassion.
Exactly, to create sustainable decisions.
And finally, we walked through the practical blueprint to restore that balance. Inventory your assumptions, repair the actual policies, rebuild for the next generation, and repeat the process continuously.
It is an incredible amount to process, but the author provides a very simple entry point for this week.
He does, and I really want our listeners to try this.
I highly recommend taking 5 minutes this evening to sit down with a piece of paper and complete these 2 journaling prompts from the text.
Okay, what are they?
First, the canoe I am ready to set down is.
Okay.
And second, the balance practice I will try this week is.
Writing it down moves it from a theoretical concept you heard on a deep dive into a physical commitment.
It makes it real.
It really does.
Yeah.
Now, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Something to keep chewing on.
Exactly. We've spent this entire deep dive discussing how crucial it is to set down our old canoes so we can build new, balanced, co-facilitated structures on dry land today.
Right.
But if we are successful, if we rewrite the bylaws, share the power, and create a beautiful new system, How do we ensure that our new structures don't slowly calcify over time?
Oh, wow.
How do we prevent today's lived wisdom from slowly turning into the heavy, rigid canoes that the next generation of leaders will be forced to carry?
That is the perpetual challenge of leadership, isn't it?
It is.
Staying endlessly curious and awake to the present moment so that we never stop asking if the tools we are using are still serving the people we lead.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Father Bio Adrian's transformative teaching.
It's been a great conversation.
We hope it provided you with a new lens for your leadership and a practical path toward true divine balance. And remember, wisdom is what you do when no one is clapping.
So true.
So whatever streets you find yourself walking down today, whatever streets you find yourself walking down today, put down the canoe. You don't need it anymore.
Amen. Amen. Certainly, certainly. Thank you for being a part of this production. We need to answer the question, what are the canoes we are still carrying around? And in order for us to continue to elucidate and unveil, we need to keep the vigil together every weekend here in the United States, here in Virginia, for lovers. We host a Zoom session, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Check for the link below in the comment section. I love you, but God loves you the most. Let us bring to reality the harmonization of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the divine masculine into the reality of the essence of divine care and sharing that makes us one true human family. Peace, shalom, salam alaikum, shanti, and hotel. Namaste, Christ, Ubuntu, true parental love, and friendship to all.